Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for logging in for this webinar. It is going to be disseminating water and environment research agenda for Uganda and its implementation approach. As you're waiting for the presenter to come in, please you go through. I think they've shared with you the research agenda on your emails. If those who have been on email can be going through it while we're waiting for the presenter to come in. Thank you for logging in. I didn't introduce myself. I'm Gwendo Chobulungi. I'm the coordinator of Water Resources Institute. Thank you. I think it's okay. The presenter has come in and I will let him take over. Dr. Kalisti Dumgaya. Thank you, members.
Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry again that we have delayed to start. So let me, Gwendolyn, can we get somebody to read us in the opening prayer? Or you have done that already?
Not yet, sir. Let's have
So
someone.
let's get somebody to read us an opening prayer as you have in the agenda. Then we can make remarks and then we start.
Thank you, sir. Can we have Stephen? Stephen lead us in an opening prayer. Stephen to Mwesige, please.
Thank you, coordinator, and thank you, chair. Colleagues, let's humble ourselves and we pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and we thank you for this webinar when we gather to deliberate on issues concerning the water and environment research agenda. We pray for your guidance throughout the meeting, that whatever we discuss today will be for the betterness of the water and environment sector, and in the end, for the betterment of our country and for the glory of your name. We pray in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Stephen.
So thank you very much for the prayer. So again, let me take this opportunity to welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to this webinar where we are disseminating the water and environment research agenda and its implementation. I hope all of you have been able to get a copy of the research agenda, and if not, the Secretariat will share with you. But we want to make sure that whatever is done in the country is well guided. And here we worked with a number of you to come up with the priority research areas. And for this webinar, we want to make sure that all of you are aware of what this research agenda is about and how it is going to be operationalized. We have two presentations. One presentation is on the research agenda itself, how it has been structured. Then after that, we shall have opportunities for comments, discussions, and then we have the second part on how actually we are moving the research agenda forward. And I do hope that you will be able to get some understanding of why and how you can participate. Otherwise, I want to thank you and let me move forward and run you through what we have as a research agenda so that we are able to be guided in that regard. Do you see my screen?
It is coming on.
Can you confirm?
It is sharing. It is coming on, sir.
Yes, I can view it.
Yes.
Can see.
Okay, fine. Yes. So this is called Dr. Kalisti Ndimugaya, Commissioner, the Ministry of Water and Environment. And again, I run you through this. Just to get you to know that the water and environment research agenda has been developed by the Ministry of Water and Environment through the Water Resources Institute. It is aimed to guide applied research that directly informs policy. Again, we are focusing on applied research. We are not going to go into academic research. But of course, sometimes the dividing line is thin, and will inform policy, planning, and practice in Uganda, and will provide evidence, tools, and innovations for sustainable management and enrollment of water and environment resources. We note that sometimes things happen, but we don't have evidence, we don't have the tools, and also innovations to help us address them. And we are doing this because we are having growing pressure on our water and environment resources from rapid population growth, from land use change, environmental degradation, urbanization, industrialization, climate change impacts, and many others. So how have we approached the development of the research agenda? This has been done through a structured evidence-based process, starting with desk review, and all the way up to prioritizing the research themes. So desk review, we reviewed the national policies, sector strategies, and relevant publications. We had extensive stakeholder consultations, many organizations at the national level, government institutions, universities, NGOs, regulators, government partners, practitioners on the ground were consulted at the national level and at the regional level. The team went to the regions and talked with the local governments and the other stakeholders. We did gap analysis where we looked at the research gaps and also the thematic areas which were proposed from consultation and literature review. And we also prioritized the topics that had been proposed through a ranking criteria where we looked at the urgency and the relevance. We wanted to focus on those which are urgent and very relevant as the first priority. Then we also look at potential impact. We want those which can create impact very fast, but also funding availability, those that can be funded, policy alignment, and feasibility. So every research theme has been taken through this prioritization so that we are able to start with high priority areas as we move down in the radar. So the thematic areas have been put into 3 pillars organized under the themes. So we have a pillar on water, a pillar on environment, and a pillar on climate change. For example, on water, we are looking at water use efficiency and losses. We do note that we are not focusing much about how to improve the way we are using water. For example, right now, a lot of water is lost in urban areas as unaccounted for water. And then we are losing money, losses in agriculture and losses in other areas. Agriculture, water management, disaster and risk management, scarcity, livelihood and adaptation. We want to see how we can improve on livelihoods. Economic valuation, we want to see how water can contribute to economic development of the country, and also the issue of governance. Also in environment, we are working on environmental monitoring so that we can get information for decision making, ecosystem health and biodiversity, sustainable practices and technology, environmental governance. We also want to look at waste and circular economy, how we can turn waste into wealth, and flood management and governance. On climate change, we are looking at how to manage climate change impacts, also mitigation, impacts on water and agriculture, ecosystem and biodiversity, health and social vulnerability, and climate finance and policy. When you look at these themes, some of them are related. They can actually be integrated in the same research area. So as we categorize them, we would actually even be promoting holistic research that looks at water, environment, and climate change, and how they impact on well-being of the people, on the economy, and other things. So how are we going to operationalize this research agenda? Again, the Water Resources Institute is going to be the coordination hub, basically to get to know how research is being done. And we are going to, first of all, make a detailed inventory on what do we know, for example, on flooding, on climate change, on irrigation, on water supply, on groundwater, so that we are able to determine what we need to do. So the research gaps are going to be concretized through the Water Resources Institute, where then the Institute will be guiding the stakeholders on how we are going to do that. The Institute will have already strengthening its capacity infrastructure, and ability to coordinate. But also, we want that this research is done and operationalized through what is already being done. If the universities are already doing research, we want them to be guided by it so that we can do research that is helping the country. If anybody is doing masters or PhD or even undergraduate, again, this is going to be a reference area where you can get to know the research priorities of the country. So what basically we want to do is not to get everybody to be part of the institute or the ministry, but for us to get to know what research is being done on water and what can we pick from there so that we inform policy and practice. What research is being done on environment, again, by the civil society, by the private sector, by the academia, by the practitioners, so that we are able to turn research into policy and practice. And so for those areas which are a priority and maybe they are not being funded, the Water Resources Institute is creating a research fund where we shall be having competitive grants that will be reviewed transparently by a research subcommittee reporting under the National Technical Advisory Committee so that we can again determine the research that we want to do. So again, those of you who are involved in research, look out for these research grants, the call for research grants. We would want to make sure that it is done in a partnership arrangement. But we're also going to have a digital research repository so that when you come to the institute, you are able to know if you want to do research, you know which areas have probably had enough research, which areas do we not know, we don't know much. So the repository is going to store, manage, and disseminate the research data and outputs so that it can be a center, again, for water, environment, and climate research focus. Then this work is going to be done through strategic partnerships between government institutions, the academia, research institution, NGOs, civil society, private sector, development partners, and everybody. So stakeholder engagement is going to be key to support the research so that we can co-design, co-implement, and then, of course, do the field implementation, validation, and dissemination, and uptake into policy. So again, we have put the research into 3 tiers. The tier 1 is those which are urgent, that have high impact and feasible, and they can be addressed. We call them the low-hanging fruits, the things that we can do very fast. Then there are those which are in tier 2 important, more specialized or harder, where we need even more resources and maybe more specialization. And then tier 3 are those which really need further justification. They are probably useful, but maybe they can wait. And our research program is running from 2025 to 2029. So implementation framework, we're establishing governance and management mechanism where we shall be having research fund and we shall be having thematic programs where we'll be having people again drawn from a cross section of stakeholders to ensure that the research is well governed. We're developing annual and multi-year research work plans based on tier 1 and tier 3 priorities. If we can finish tier 1 priorities within 1 year, then we can go to tier 2 and the right. But of course, we can also even move depending on what the stakeholders need. Maybe what is in tier 3 can move tier 1 if there is justification. We'll be conducting competitive calls for proposals aligned with the different thematic priorities. Again, we are having competitive calls for proposals. Again, you can work with us so that the calls are issued within the framework of the institute. It doesn't mean that the money will come from the institute, but we call upon the partners also to join this. And of course, we'll be supporting capacity building, training, mentorship, and technical exchanges that you can get people doing research to learn from each other. Those who are in their early years of research to be trained and mentored by those who have experience. And of course, we have systematic dissemination through policy briefs. We shall be having webinars, regular webinars. We shall be having even workshops. But a lot of this is going to be put in a water and environment journal. We are embarking on producing water and environment journal. We are right now in the process of getting the editors and all of that and the linkages. And by the end of the year, we'll already be moving forward. So all of this will be put into the journal so that people are helped to actually publish. And of course, this will inform the dialogues. We'll be having clear monitoring and evaluation framework where we'll be having indicators so that we see whether we are getting value, we are moving forward. but of course the baseline and targets. We are aligning all of this to the development plan, national development plan, and sector strategy. So we'll know the areas we want to focus on. We have already got good feedback from various government agencies who are welcoming this research agenda, and we feel that it will set a basis for us to move forward. We shall have regular data collection, reporting, and review processes integrated into the planning cycles of the Mineral and Water Resources Institute, mechanism for running and adaptive management. Again, research will inform practice, but research can inform and help us to design training programs, design dialogue topics, and also outreach. And of course, we shall also be having open information sharing. We will be having dissemination and practical use of research results by policymakers, practitioners, and communities. So phase 1 is going to be kicked off immediately, and we are going to listen to the next presentation. I will be talking about collaborative applied research program for water, environment, and climate resilience, where phase 1 is focusing water, sanitation, and hygiene. And this component has received funding from Water Foundation, and is aiming to facilitate and strengthen collaboration among key stakeholders, including academia, civil society, private sector, government institutions, in the implementation of the various research initiatives across the country. So again, I hope that this gives you a feel, but we have produced these documents. We have all documents, they can be shared with you in soft copy by the Secretariat, but we have also produced popular version, a version that you can refer to at short notice. So that's where I end my presentation. So if there is any comment now that any of you has, you can raise it, but also if necessary, we could also have the second presentation, but we can listen in already to any comments that you may have. Over to you, ladies and gentlemen, for any comments. Yes, Neri, I see your hand is up. Can you come up with your question?
Dr. Kallis, thank you so much for your presentation. I was basically giving you a very, big applause for a very clear presentation that you've given to us just now. But given this request for me maybe to place any question that I could have is, having listened to you, what was really lingering in my mind is the statement that you've made saying that there's a very thin line, between applied research and the academic research that maybe universities do embark on. So I'm just wondering how best we hope to coordinate this, research, program within the Ministry of Water and Environment, such that we can inspire, the themes that universities will be focusing on. Because at the end of the day, one thing which you made very clear is we should not just do research for the sake of it, but research that can, impact the sector, can really give us solutions to some of the problems that we are facing. So I think there is need for us to see how best we can coordinate with universities so that we can also have their clear contribution in this. But the other thing maybe that I wanted to seek some clarification on is with the regards to the research grants that you just mentioned. Some of us who are connected here are basically are quite interested in this particular aspect, and they would be happy if some of the topics that we are looking at, which relate quite strongly with what you propose here, could also be absorbed. So we don't know really when these calls will start to be coming out. That is something that I wanted also to hear, the call for research grant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Nelly, for that. We'll come to that. I had seen Pamela, you can come in. I think I had seen another hand, but Pamela, you can come in now.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for the presentation and for the Institute for this opportunity. I think the previous speaker has just preempted what I wanted to ask. I wanted to also ask about the research grant, especially for maybe the young professionals that are already in the sector and that maybe are doing their research already, that are studying. how they could maybe benefit from this research, the grants, how maybe they can apply for them, how we are going to collaborate. But also key to that is maybe how is the institute going to monitor whoever is going to get the grant, because there are people that could take this for granted, that they just want to get the grant, but then what is after in for the institute, how they could contribute more, how there's maybe that kind of monitoring and evaluation that keeps on, something like that. But I think the previous speaker really mentioned what I wanted to ask as well. Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you very much, Pamela. Any other so that we can respond at once? Some of the questions are going to be clarified by the next presentation. Let me respond to what you have raised, Nelly. Yes, as of now, we note the need for collaboration. So we have reached out to all the universities that teach courses, water, environment, and climate change, and that's almost every university. And the permanent secretary has written to them, first of all, requesting them for collaboration. He has also offered that when there are students out there, the ministry will give them access to the projects, to the data we have, and also to offer co-supervisors. So right now we're having engagements with a number of universities, Makerere University, Bustema, we're also engaging with Uganda Management Institute, MOOBs, and all of that. So we are reaching out so that we have collaboration with them. Now, within the Ministry, of course, the institute is seen as coordinating that, but the research is going to be done through the various departments. We have already our department that has been the Department for Water for Production. They have already picked it up and they already want to get some research done on the reservoirs that are being constructed, on how can improve water use efficiency and things like that. So the institute will be a hub which will know what is being done, but the different departments can actually liaise with the university directly without having to wait for the institute. But the institute is going to be coordinating the engagements. Now, so through the collaboration, right now, for example, we have MOUs with a number of organizations, the civil society, the private sector, Uganda Bank Association, and all of that, the cultural institutions. So we feel that through the MOUs, we'll be having a bit better coordination, but also through the committees we are putting together, we hope that we will have the coordination done. Now, the research grants. The research grants right now, you are going to listen to the presentation, how we are structuring the research grant for water, sanitation, and hygiene with funding from water. We have thought about it, we are going to indicate to you. But where, for example, we have priorities, like Pamela, what you have raised, we are going as a ministry, going to say, we want to do research in this. So the staff of the ministry and our partners are going to be guided on the areas where we do research, and we'll fund some of those research. So the research grants are not just going to be on anything. For example, you may be doing research as your studies just because, that's what your supervisor told you to do. But is that part of the priority? So these priorities are also going to enable our staff to be guided, and then you'll be able to benefit from these research grants because you are doing research on priorities. And then when you come back, again, the next presentation is going to highlight to you, how are we going to monitor to make sure that the research is done? So again, we have thought about this. We'll benefit, again, some of the researches will be open, but we might have some resources which are targeting the staff of the ministry directly. As we progress and the resources come through, we'll be actually expanding the research grants. So as of now, as you have indicated, Nelly, again, if you have some areas where you want to do research and they're in line with the research agenda, then some of those will be prioritized. We, of course, don't have a lot of money to fund everything, but again, we interface with you and be able to get the research that can help the country to move forward. Any other comment? I don't know whether I've responded well to your questions, comments. Can I, probably, if that's the case, we still have opportunity to comment. Can I request that we go to the next presentation? Gwendolyn, you guide the next presentation. And then we can have even comments after that, after I've listened to the second presentation. Over to you. And Gwendolyn, and of course, and Francis, Stephen, and the rest of the team be ready to respond to this. Thank you. Over to you, Gwendolyn, to move forward the process and moderate.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for the presentation. And some comments, you can continue putting comments in the chat and we shall be able to register them. As a commenter, we shall keep on registering them as fast as requested. We can go to our next, we are going to go to our next presenter, who's Miss Fortunate Kemigisha, and will be representing on how some of this collaborative research is going to be undertaken, or the process or the procedures we are going to use as some of the questions that come in. On this note, I request Fortunate to take up the presentation for the next presentation, and more questions can continue coming in. We are ready here to answer. Even after the webinar, we'll be able to continue responding to the questions put forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Gwendolyn. Thank you so much, Dr. Calist, for the presentation. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, you can see it. Fortunately, go ahead.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fortunate Kemigisha. I work as a research officer for the Water Resources Institute, Ministry of Water and Environment. So as Dr. Calist already introduced, the Water Resources Institute is implementing a collaborative research program on water, environment, and climate resilience in Uganda. And today we are going to focus on the first component. The other components will come later. Probably we shall get some from you. But today we are going to focus on how WASH is going to be implemented. And this is supported by the Waterloo Foundation, and it will be running from January 2027 to December 2029. So looking at the Water Resources Institute and the research agenda that was developed, we are focusing on knowledge generation, innovation, capacity building, and policy management. And this research agenda prioritizes evidence-based interventions in WASH, climate resilience, water governance, and resource efficiency. And also important to note is that the Water Resources Institute has got its core values, and one of them is collaboration. And that is why collaborative research is at the heart of the Water Resources Institute's approach to strengthening Uganda's water and environment sector. Ladies and gentlemen, before actually this program was looked at, there was the feasibility study that was conducted. And from the feasibility study, it was realized that actually there are research challenges that are out there. However, there are opportunities and also feasibility for conducting research, and especially collaborative research. And the challenges that were found, it was realized that collaborative research would actually fix most of the issues. So one of them was the limited funding opportunities for postgraduate research that also guided the new program that we are having. And then having the weak academia industry linkages that hinder practical uptake of research. You well know that in most of the universities, of course, when research is published, in most cases, actually it stays on shelf. It's never having impact on ground. So would like to have that collaborative research that will create impact on ground through these two linkages of academia and industry. And then having insufficient laboratory facilities and field research infrastructure in many public universities also calls for collaboration to resolve that. So this feasibility study concluded that with structured collaboration and strategic funding, actually impactful research is possible and it can be scalable. So particularly for this WASH component that we are starting with, we shall be focusing on supporting the master's students in Ugandan universities, but they have to be jointly supervised by someone from academia and also someone else from industry. And the goals are to bridge the gap between theory and practice, and also build capacity and definitely generate data-driven solutions for water sanitation and hygiene. And also we are keen that within our implementation, we have to align with the Sustainable Development Goals, especially the goal number 6, which focuses on climate, on clean water and sanitation, and then the goal number 13 that focuses on climate action. So this program has got a main aim and particular objectives. The main aim is to have these WASH development issues in Uganda be addressed through applied collaborative research. And specifically, the first objective is to establish new collaborations between academia and industry so that they are involved in WASH policy and implementation. Then the second one is to generate strong evidence on policy implementation and financial aspects of water sanitation and hygiene. And then also the third one is to ensure that the research findings are integrated into the national WASH policies and implementation frameworks. And number 4 is to also ensure that the young professionals are inspired by engaging these master's students in WASH-related research projects, including mentorship by partner organizations. And finally, number 5 is looking at strengthening the research capacity in WASH across the water and environment sector, all the other institutions, and also the academic institutions. So we have got a program governance structure where we shall have the governance starting from the roots where we have the coordination team. We have below, we are having a research program liaison team that will be conducting the day-to-day activities of the program. And then they will have to be reporting to the research program task force. And this task force is going to be picked out of what we are calling the research agenda committee. So we are going to pick out 7 individuals that will be well-versed with WASH, and they will be taking care of this role of being the task force. And then these 2 parties will be reporting to the National Technical Advisory Committee for the Institute, which is called NTAC. So the NTAC will also be reporting to the steering committee that is headed by the permanent secretary. So that is how the program will be managed, but also it is important to notice that there will be information exchange and reporting, and also accountability between parties. Then the implementation team is not going to be so much different from what the governance is. But this time round, we shall have to ensure that the implementing partners, or the ones we are calling collaborators, and these include a master's student, we have an academic supervisor that must hold a PhD, and then we have maybe someone else from private sector or from an NGO or government, or anyone that qualifies to be part of the team. So there has to be a partnership between academia and industry in that way. And then throughout the implementation, they will be reporting to the program liaison team and the task force, and then later the process continues like that. So diving into this component and how it's going to run, it has got as a thematic scope where we have one is universal access and inclusion for water and sanitation. And then the second thematic area is operation and maintenance of rural water services and sanitation. And then also we are keen to align ourselves with the time frame of the universities and ensuring that we are within the time in which the universities are implementing or they are implementing their research. So we have also got the proposal requirements that we shall be providing in a template, but also here important to notice that implementation, the actual implementation on the ground will have to be starting around May for every year. And of course, this will start from 2027, 2028, then end in 2029. And then we have something that you need to know before getting into this partnership. We have options for providing in-kind support. This is based on the nature of the research and also the nature of an institution. An institution might be having maybe a facility for supporting the research to go on. So just in case maybe you have like a laboratory or you have like reagents for supporting the student to carry out the experiments or something. So this collaboration enables us to contribute together as collaborators to ensure that we achieve the objectives of the research or of the project. And then this collaboration, as earlier mentioned, we are looking at it being between someone that is in an academic institution, that's a master's student, and then with a professor or a doctor, someone with a PhD, and then someone else from industry. It could be government, could be a CSO, it could be private sector. So these have got particular roles and responsibilities where we are ensuring that each person plays their role, where the student has to focus on the actual activities of the research and also ensure that the write-ups are well put together at the right time, and of course submitted to the academic supervisor, who will have to always review and ensure that the research component comes out very strongly. And then for the other one from industry, will ensure that the practical bit is very strong. And in that way, we shall have to realize some impact on ground. That's the intention that we are having within this collaboration. So at the end of this year, around November, we are intending to have a matchmaking event. And this matchmaking event is very crucial because we want to ensure that this collaboration is actually practical, it's not fabricated. So before the event, we shall ensure that we have a registration of interested participants through an online form. And then these will be invited for the event. It will be an online event where we shall have categorized the different profiles of individuals and areas of expertise by thematic areas. And then we do the presentation of the call for proposals to the members, and then also have structured 10-minute networking rounds based on a particular theme, based on the different groups, and then have breakout a session of about 30 minutes and ensuring that there is some networking to discuss ways of collaborating so that we are making it actual. And then we shall have to receive feedback from the different groups. And then after the event, we shall have to do follow-up. So in this way, we shall share possible matching collaborators lists with all participants for consideration and comments. And then at the end of the day, we shall share the call for proposals to the qualifying groups or members who are able to apply, because we shall have already known who is interested, who is qualifying, who is able to apply. So the process of grant selection will have certain processes where you have to be keen while budgeting. Within the budget, one will have to ensure that all components are budgeted for, and these are just covering research implementation. So we are expecting the student to have a proposal that is already approved by the department and is ready for data collection and implementation. So we are supposed to ensure that all the items budgeted for, like maybe equipment hire, maybe having per diem during data collection processes, and then maybe paying for any emergency medical costs or even accommodation during data collection. All that money, it's not much money, but it's going to cater for everything. So you have to look for ways of balancing each and every activity. And we have to know that the maximum you have to apply for within the budget, the maximum you have to budget for is 5,000 Great British Pounds. And also within the application process, you have to ensure that the collaboration is very strong, and the master's student has to inform the academic supervisor and then the implementing partner to ensure that they well understand this research and they ensure that it's well aligned with the requirements so that it is accepted for this fund and for implementation. And then in that way, you'll have to have meetings to ensure that everything is well put together. So as earlier mentioned, the selection committee is going to be the task force, of which we are thinking of having 7 members as proposed. And then the selection criteria, here we will have to look at the academic qualification and then collaboration flexibility. If there is some rigidity of a certain member, then they don't have to get involved. And then institutional capacity, is the institution ready to support the research, or are they capable of getting involved into that research, and can it be implemented in the time that it has been stipulated to be implemented in? Then gender and inclusion, you have to consider that within your proposal, because you have to take care of the needs of each and everyone, including maybe women and children and the like. Then for the awarding process, shall have to call for proposals this year in December, and then the proposals will be submitted by 28th of February 2027. So you see all that time given is to ensure that everything really gets aligned, to ensure that all things are practically coming out. So that is why we are giving it all that time. And then we go ahead to do the eligibility check, we evaluate, and that will be done by the task force. And then endorsement by the steering committee, and then we have an award notification, then disperse the funds later and have public announcement. Then at the end of the day, after implementing all the research, it has to be disseminated. So here we are calling upon those students and the stakeholders that will be implementing the research to be ready. After the implementation, there have to be some research briefs and policy papers that have to be published. And then having also academic publications is very highly encouraged. And then also having presentations within Uganda Water and Environment Week and all the other events that take place within the country. And then we also have a water and environment journal that is being established. So we shall have input of all these works being published with in that Ugandan Journal for Water and Environment. And then of course also not forgetting the media and communication channels to ensure that whatever we implement is actually having impact on ground and it's communicated and disseminated to the public. Then we are also keen to look at the sustainability of this collaborative program, where we ensure that it actually goes on and it's sustainable enough. So in this way, as we implement this collaborative research, we shall ensure that we are strategically positioned and visible And then we have to ensure that all our communications are impact driven. So we have to ensure that what we do actually creates impact on ground. And then we also have to ensure that we have engagements that are donor targeted. And then also, without forgetting the integration with the national development goals during the implementation to ensure that we are not off the national development plan. And then we have to also look into leveraging the alumni network, because it's from those collections of ideas that we can actually even have new programs coming ahead. So we are embracing the network of the alumni to ensure that there is sustainability of knowledge and everything that will come ahead. So this activity overview briefly shows the major activities that will take place for our knowledge. As I earlier mentioned, we shall have a matchmaking event in November this year. And then, but before we have that matchmaking event, we shall have to share out an expression of interest to the participants or to the interested collaborators to indicate their qualifications and areas of expertise and all the things that will be required, which will be sent to you. And then in March, we shall have, in December, we shall have the launch of call for proposals. And then, as earlier mentioned, we shall have the deadline around end of February. And then in March, we shall have the Water and Environment Week as usual. And then we go ahead, by April, we shall have the task force perform its role in selection and contract award. And then in June, we have now the grantees in a workshop, and then the research starts. And then for every year, that will be happening. Then around July, August, September, we shall have to do some monitoring and training. And then in November, we shall have maybe learning, workshop, or reviewing to ensure that everything is running well, because we have to evaluate what is going on and ensure that actually it's having impact on ground. And we shall have to account for each and everything that will be done. And then in December, for every year, we shall be having final reports submitted at different levels. Yeah, thank you so much for listening to me. Back to you, Madam Gwendolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Fortunate. Thank you for the presentation. And then there are some more questions which are been posted on the chat, but I would love to hear questions on case of the presentation that has just finished. And then Dr. Kalista has been asked in some of the chats, will be able to come in and also address or answer the questions that have been posted in the chat. Currently, if you have questions, if you have got comments, if you got anything that you need to supplement on this presentation by Fortunate, please raise your hand and we'll be able to allow you in to raise your comment or question. Thank you.
Maybe Gwendolyn, as the team is thinking through, let me respond to these that are on the chat. Let me start with the last one, Mugisha Yevale. Yes, research we are talking about is for Uganda. And every Ugandan will really be eligible. So again, if you are interested in research and you are a private hydrogeologist, yes, you will qualify. As you progress, we'll move beyond students. What Fortunate has talked about are students, but we also want research to go beyond. Like for example, as a hydrogeologist, there are things you are encountering in the field related to groundwater. So we'll be issuing out some call for those who are interested in, for example, doing research on sustainability of groundwater, these environments, or maybe research, things like that that will be identified as priorities. Yes, but again, you can share your views and ideas with the team at the institute, so that's what you find in the field can actually be considered as one of the priorities. Okay, government universities have just started. Fortunately, we'll talk about that. It is related to what you are talking about. Yes, how can one join the editorial team of the Water and Environment Journal? Yes, nearly we have actually started, and it's good that you are there. And the people behind the journal, I see Professor Nicholas Chigundu there and all of that. We'll be looking for people who actually can be part. And already, Nelly, you have already indicated your interest. Yes, we take note of that. We'll basically be requesting for people to volunteer. This is a voluntary work. But also we'll be having opportunities to train young people. But let me provoke Professor Chigundu if you're online. If you are still online, I want you to comment on this bit that has been raised about the journal and how young scientists can be involved. I hope Professor Chigundu is still there. I had seen him earlier,
Yes,
but yes,
yes,
Professor
Dr.
Chigundu,
Kalis,
responded to a few of these. Yes.
and everyone, good afternoon. Yes, we shall need people to help us with the journal, the reviewers. So those who express interests and their areas of specialty, they are welcome. Of course, as you say, the review work, we've done it for years. It's a voluntary work. But we shall need people, and we shall be maybe putting out a list. What journals do is to acknowledge that you've been a review and they give you a certificate. So if there are people willing to join us, that's wonderful. Now, Dr. Kaliste, thanks for the presentation and the fortunate. I just want to make one comment. Why our research remains on the bookshelf, because that's how things are done. The moment the student comes, he does his research and he gets his award as a master's, and as a professor, I get a publication and citation, that's it. So we want that in this new arrangement that changes, whereby after doing a research, we have money for translation of the findings, which isn't the case with the normal research that once people have done the accountability of funds and the student and the publication, that's it. So maybe fortunate, and when as you revise the budget, there should be that component that maybe instead of giving 5 or 6 awards or 10, we scale down, we give 70% awards, and then we reserve money to do the real translation and the communication of the findings. What we find today with especially like the farmers, they don't want to come for trainings in Makerere or at one of our research centers. First of all, the place is intimidating, but also if the farmer forgets something, there's no way he can remember. He can't come back. So that we have an approach that reduces sedimentation into our rivers or valley dams or valley tank. A student does a research, but we have the physical translation of those results. And we demonstrate in about 3-4 water management zone, and people are able to see. And also we package the information the way people understand. Most of our dissemination is in English. People enjoy listening to you, but they have not understood what you are saying. And also the dissemination methodology or the approach is not the appropriate one. People want physical. So I'm of the view that this time when we do these appropriate applied research, when we get the findings, we find a better way that is impactful when we translate results. In that way, we shall have solved the problem. Otherwise, our journals are okay, and papers, they are cited, and we feel proud about them, but it's more of the same. Nobody ever does that. And also, why we are talking about having our journal is that many of our good papers are locked up. in paid up journals, and nobody ever pays for that. Nobody has 50 euros or 70 or so to get to access the paper. Thank you, Dr. Calista and the moderator.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Chigund, again for those clarifications. And again, as he has said, really, this is something we feel needs to be given attention, and we continue to improve with you as we interface with you. And I think, as you have indicated, Professor Chigundu, yes, the research is done, but we need the research to go out to the people. Yes, so let's continue improving. We look into this and reserve some resources for doing that. Maybe, fortunately, you can take up some of the questions that are in the chat. If you see them, those relate to you. As we wait for people to speak out their comments, you could just respond to a few of these. And of course,
right.
Gwendolyn, Francis, and the rest of the team, Stephen, they will be there to supplement as appropriate.
All right. Thank you so much, Doctor. And thank you so much, Professor Chibongi, for your submission. It's really helpful. There is someone asking here, maybe this would... Can you hear me?
Yes, fortunately, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Thank you. So there is someone here asking, how can one join the editorial team of the Water and Environment Journal? Will there
Fortunately,
be...
that one, we talked about it. We already responded to it with Professor Chigundu. So you can jump that one. We go to the next.
Yeah, someone is here asking, government universities have just admitted masters and PhD students, and the orientation is going on. Will there be consideration for this lot that already got admitted to universities if they apply? The answer would be no, because here, this project is looking at particularly masters for the start. Maybe for the PhDs, it will be later for other components that will come up. But this particularly is looking at masters. And also we are focusing on those that have ready proposals that have been well prepared and ready for implementation. So if you are enrolled or admitted or anything, you would not qualify for this. Yeah, I think that answers the question. Then someone else, Martin, was asking, looking at the time flow, how do we align this with our university research as part of the graduation requirement needed to be submitted by June 2027? Now, I think this is not cast in stone. For this person that needs to submit by June 2027, I don't think they are part of this. I don't think they could maybe get involved in this because they are literally almost done. If they started implementing, unless they got stuck somewhere and they have to apply for this one, and then they go with the flow or they go with the timelines of this particular project. I think that's the best way I can answer that. So this project is going to run in its own timeline. If it's aligning with someone's timeline, then that will be good. But if someone is already ahead or they are about to submit, I think that one doesn't work because we want impact to be felt on ground. They will need to have time to even collaborate. So all these things have to be done in a particular time frame. So this one is literally far ahead. Yeah, then another one asked, as undergraduate students, are we allowed to participate if I'm interested to do my research about water? As undergraduate students for this particular one, no, maybe later, because now it's us maybe to create those opportunities for the undergraduates. Perhaps another component will come up and then to consider the undergraduates. But for this one, particularly masters are specified within the presentation. Yeah. And then this one is saying, I would like to ask, how will the collaborative applied research program handle resource allocation across competing priorities? For resource allocation, and now when you come as collaborators that you have agreed and you have applied with a master's student's proposal that is approved by the department, you will come knowing how it's going to be implemented, how much it needs. For particular projects, the money may not be enough, or for particular projects, the money may be too much. I don't know. But of course, this amount is not a lot really. But the resource allocation, it will be managed by the group, but you have to choose a leader. That will be a team leader to ensure that all things are accounted for and all activities are appropriately funded, and then also ensuring that the team leader is accountable to the entire team. So I think that answers the question. I hope so. But in case it's not clear, you could go ahead to ask for any clarifications. Thank you so much. Back to you, Madam Gwendolyn.
Thank you, Fortunate, for those answers. And I was running down into the questions that were put in the chat. I think there's a one presentation, a question for Dr. Calist from Patrick Kaizi.
Yes. Let me, yes, there's one from Patrick. I see a few more. Gwendolyn also you will. Now, just maybe to respond broadly, what Fortunate talked about is what we are starting with the funding from Water Law Foundation, focusing on water, sanitation, and hygiene. But we are going to roll out other research grants in other areas. Some may be for undergraduates, some may be for doing masters, some will even be for PhD. But what Fortunate has talked about and which we are rolling out immediately is for those who are doing masters, where the master student will come with the supervisor, we work with people in practice, and we want to make sure that we have academic research informing policy and practice. So again, those of you asking how you can participate, yes, we are launching this research agenda and we want to make sure that you have research across different spectrums. And the Institute will keep you updated. And maybe once we reach some of those, then we might even have a session like this to update you. Now, Patrick, you have raised an issue regarding the research, some of the people in the ministry wanting to do research. This is where we are going to link those in the ministry who are interested in research to partner with them with the people in academia. For example, if we say we want to have research on operation and maintenance, for example, of irrigation schemes, then we are going to say which department in Makerere University is suitable, can work with the team in the ministry, and maybe work with, say, private sector, whoever. So we don't want the team at the ministry to do research on their own just for the sake. What we want to get, we want to make sure that we do collaborative research so that the ministry team is also even helped to publish, because you can do your work in the ministry and remains work just that remains there. So again, these are areas, identify these areas and look at the research agenda, and many of them will be funded based even on the projects we are doing. And these are areas where those who want within the ministry who want to do masters or PhD will be guided, so that some people in the ministry become your field supervisors. Then we are getting the supervisors from the university. So that's the kind of collaboration we are going to have. And through that, then you can even do your research, even when you are working. And you are doing it as part of what we are doing. So that's how we want to build the capacity to make sure that our teams are supported to do research. I know a number of people are now doing research on their own. Some are escaping from office to go and study. We want that to end. We want to make sure that we help to build your capacity in those areas which are a priority, but also which will enable the country to move forward. So Patrick, I hope that is clear. Let me see whether there is any that, yes, there is one on Vivian, on the tier 1, 2, and 3. Now, when we look at tier 1 and 2 and 3, we have tried to prioritize. But you may find that as you do tier 1, you might pick something from tier 3 because you want really to look at holistic research. So, for example, if you are, say, land governance is in tier 3, and you are doing water resource management, then you say, I want to also look at how we govern the land because it affects water resources. And through that arrangement, so tier 1 and 2 are for prioritization. But as we do research, there might be commingling of this. And somebody had also raised the issue earlier on that we need also to invest in data. Now, collecting data, this is the work we do. For example, we collect water resources data, quantity, quality, and we have monitoring networks, we have weather information. So these are we are collecting, but when you are doing research, you might identify gaps, which then will inform where we improve as part of our data collection. So there's going to be more or less a loop. The research identifies areas of gaps, maybe the data quality is not good or the data is not enough, and then it informs what is done on the ground. But when the data is done, then it helps you to know what data is available. So again, we'll be talking about the data the scientific data, but also we are also having for example, right now we're talking about artificial intelligence. Quite a lot is being done, so we'll be integrating quite a lot of information, of course, including also indigenous knowledge. Let me see whether there's anything for me there that may be remaining. So maybe if there's anything, Gwendolyn and your team, you can respond to them. I think somebody talked about collaboration. Yes, we have centers. We have the ministry has 6 regional offices, one in Mbarara, one in Wakiso, one in Moroto, another one in Mbarara, Alira, Fort Portal. And these centers are also going to be hubs for applied research. So some of the research, for example, the universities or the researchers located in those areas, you don't have to come to the ministry. You will be collaborating with us through those regional centers. And we want them to focus more as part of their project so that they can utilize the facility they have. And we only come to the ministry headquarters for things that cannot be done from there. I think that's what Stella you're asking about. So back to you, Gwendolyn. I hope we have responded to all, but in case there is any, we can respond to. But Gwendolyn, again, you can clarify, and Francis and the team on anything that may need clarity. Over to you.
Doctor, there is a hand from Andrew.
Andrew, you can take the floor. Your hand is up.
Thank you very much, Commissioner, and the presenters, as well as colleagues who have been able to join this discussion to launch this research agenda. Yeah, when we're beginning, I think what stood out for me is how to participate in this research agenda. However, when Mrs. Kembisha was sharing, the discussion was skewed towards the academia, more so master students. And I felt a few of us, if not most of us, would have been left out since most of us finished the master's degree. Yeah, but what I've realized when I was doing my master's outside Uganda, as one of the students who's been trained under the intergovernment panel on policy, science, practice interface by the University and Ecosystem Services, but also my experience with engaging with some of the master students in Uganda.
God, well, what's happening?
There is something that these universities miss out often, because this agenda at first, from what I was writing down, is policy into practice. But realize that most of these, why are you focusing right now on the master students? Some of these students are not taught the research ethics. So you realize that here, much as you're going to fund them, some of the data that is going to be generated might not be credible enough to inform policies or practices in Uganda. Yeah, personally, I had an encounter with one of the students whose supervisor told him boldly, please, that can't be the result, you change it. But this was what was in the field. The student got the result from the field and said, no, it can't be. No? Change that result. So what measures are you putting in place to ensure that the research that's generated by these master students is really credible and students have followed the research ethics? Generate information that's gained from the field, not manipulated or falsification from their rooms and so on. Because yeah, someone can be given 20 million, but is not willing to invest that 20 million into the research. He's saying, no, this is an opportunity for me to improve my standards of living. So they sit somewhere and fabricate all these users and present good work, but on ground, it doesn't translate into policies and practices. Yeah, but also my supplement on living out as the young scientists, I think if there's an opportunity, let this be complementary, because some of us are fresh from the university, and when you tell us to produce maybe 6 research topics in just 3 months, we can produce these topics and we have the potential to research about them in even less than 8 months, which may not even be possible for an MS students. But also some of these universities, rather their students are not completing their research on time because of supervisors ghosting them, some of these things that are coming up. So rather that even by 2029, we still have the master students and the average might be gotten to us in other professions who are waiting, maybe who are in the fractioneer side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew, for your contribution and for your guidance and for your comments. I think, as it was said, our research is a collaborative research. We are looking at practice, we are looking at industry, academia, and also the students and other people who are in. We hope we shall be able to supervise them, shall be able to monitor them, shall be able to make sure that they don't fabricate data. When you look at the implementation of the research that was presented by Dr. Callist, we have got a monitoring and evaluation framework for this research agenda. We hope that people will not fabricate, because one thing, if you fabricate, you remember people are in practice. So someone of the supervisor who's in practice, you can easily know that this result is fabricated. Because when you look at, we said, if you are to get a student to doing masters, shall be having academia. Let's say you have supervisors and who are going to do these masters. You have got academia, you have got someone from practice and someone from the industry. I can easily know that, no, if you are researching on WASH and you say we have got 100 boreholes in the Palisa, I would know if you said 100 when I know that actually the Palisa has got 50 boreholes are in, and we are going to look at its functionality, we are going to look at O&M. I will be knowing that, no, this is not true. But we shall have also a team that is going to be doing monitoring and evaluation of the research that is going to be undertaken by students. And at the same time, we are not only looking, most of the students doing masters, if I have to remember very well, they are sometimes already in practice. Not only academia, that we're going to look at academia doing master's program, but people already in practice have to join into the academia to make sure we are collaborating with academia, even when we are in industry, to undertake our master's program research. In case actually, maybe as my resources come in later, as we expand on the implementation of the research agenda, we can look at also researchers that may not exactly be earning a degree or earning a certificate, but researchers that inform the policy, researchers that are of interest to the water and environment sector, that if something is about this one, can we research this one and come up with scientific evidence to inform the policy, to inform the practice, not necessarily earning a degree or
okay.
I think Farida, you've been, can you mute Farida? Thank you. So we are going to expand on it. We are going to look forward. And please get to know that research agenda that has been developed, we have a timeline, but it does not mean that it's going to be only stopping in 2029. After 2029, we can look at the research agenda. It is a moving project. It is a moving document. It is anything that comes in as we proceed within these 5 years can also be put into the research agenda, can also be considered. Someone talked about AI, talked about land governance. All these ones are part. It is not that this is cast in a stone. The research agenda is a guiding document. It can be edited. It can be inclusive with all that happens in the country. Today, we may have floods in Kampala. Tomorrow, we may not have floods in Kampala. Today, we may have climate change impact. But after addressing these issues of climate change, maybe we will not have the impact of landslides. So it is a moving document. It allows in what is happening today, tomorrow, and the other day. Thank you.
I don't know, Gwendolyn, whether I think Farida put something in the chat. I don't know.
Okay, let me check on the
whether you
chat.
responded to it regarding. I think she was asking about the phase. Did you respond to it, Fortunate, about the when the research selection will be done? I may have missed it. Fortunate, did you respond to what Farida put there?
Yes,
Yeah,
Doctor.
he was putting on that his selection going to be only once. No, accordingly, this WASH component of the research, we are going to be having 15. We are planning to have 15 research done, and each year we're hosting 5. So the selection is for one is for this year, another one for next year, another one for the next 3 years. There are 15, but they're going to be done in phases of 1 year and do another selection the following year and do another selection. Thank you. Let me see another one.
Okay. So just maybe to emphasize, what Fortunate presented is something for which we got funding from Waterloo, because Waterloo is interested in research on water, sanitation, and hygiene, and also focusing on master's students. It doesn't mean that the research agenda is going to be implemented in that. We are implementing through different ways. As we have said, these are resources we have, but we also have some resources in our budget to do research in any other way. So what has been presented was just something that is already up and running, but we are going to do research again. We are going to have research where practitioners come and join. Again, it doesn't mean that every research has to be done with the university. No. We don't. For example, we may have a topic and we just want a research, an individual or a company to research on it and give us results. But we will not allow people just sit in the office and fabricate. No, there will be mechanisms for following up. But also we know that people have been doing research, credible research, but probably what has been lacking are resources. So the collaborative research with the universities is one model. But we are going to have research where we say we only need private sector. For example, groundwater, we say we need hydrogeologists to research on this. And you compete amongst yourselves and your supervisor or the team. There might be some research where we say we only need the civil society, or we only need the academia. But then we say after you finish, you translate. So the models are many. PhDs will reach there. People are doing PhD. Again, we want you to be guided. Which area you're doing PhD and for what? And doesn't mean that the research, the funds have to come from the institute. No. If, for example, one of you or some of you are applying for PhD, maybe to university in Europe, one of the things you would want to know is, but which are the areas that I need to research on? So the institute collaborates with you and your university to make sure that what you are doing is actually brought back to inform policy and practice. There, the institute is not putting in money, is not even engaging in your research, but it's just getting you to ensure that you continue sharing with the Ugandans. Many of us have done research, as Professor Chigun mentioned. Our theses are somewhere gathering dust. Some of us even cannot remember what we published or what we worked on. So we want to change that. Your research document thesis will remain with you, but within the institute, we are going to have a database so that if somebody wants to know who has done research in this area, we have a database of people. If you are able to provide your document to the institute, it's okay, but there might be a link so that somebody say, if you want to know research on operation and maintenance of hydropower dams, so and so is working on it. So we are going to make sure that it becomes easier for somebody to know who is doing what, who has expertise in what, and what we know as a country so that we can move forward. We are also going to be issuing out research grants for some people to help us synthesize what has been done. Again, look out for them. For example, we want to know what knowledge do we have on hydropower, for example, on irrigation, on groundwater, on floods and droughts. So we'll be issuing out some research grants so that we get people who can help us synthesize that information and make sure that we make sense out of it. Could even be a master's research, but can be research that is done by somebody who's in practice. So we want to remain open and we want to work with you so that we realize this. So back to you, Gwendolyn.
And thank you, Dr. Calist. There are more questions or comments. The PowerPoint presentations will be shared with you. Whoever has attended and is registered, they will be shared with you after this immediate actually after this presentation. The PowerPoint presentations are going to be shared with you. The research agenda has been already shared with you. But if you need more, those who have not got the research agenda, as Dr. had said in the beginning, we are here to be able to share with you. Most of you, at least, you have got our emails, which is I think, Francis, you can put the email in the chat so that whoever wants a research agenda can request for it and it will be shared with you. And also the abridged copy will also be shared with you so that you understand what the research agenda is all about and where do you want to come in and where do you want to support. Not only are we looking for only students, even people who can help us to be collaborative, funding, can be able to do some technical support. They're all welcome in this collaborative implementation of the research agenda for water and environment for Uganda. We're sharing with our contacts. Maybe you can easily contact with us. You can also contact, maybe others can share our phone numbers. You can really contact us and we'll be able to share with you the research agenda. If there are no more questions, I think let me look at this thing that has come in. Marcel? Okay, the Marcel is just appreciating. I don't know whether there are more questions. If there are no more questions, there are no more contributions, I would just allow Dr. Kalis to give us a closing remark. Thank you, sir.
So before you close, Francis, put I think Martin Okia is asking for the email. Put the email in the chat, Francis, for those who don't know, so that they can reach out. Again, colleagues, let's take advantage of this research agenda for water, environment, and climate change. Again, Gwendolyn, you can put in the chat if Francis is not there. Anybody can put in the chat. People want that contact. So let's take advantage of this research agenda, whether you're in academia, whether you're in research, whether you're in practice, in government, in civil society, in the private sector. Take advantage of this. Again, whatever is being done for the country. We want to make sure that research informs practice, research informs policy, but research informs the development of this country. The institute is only coordinating, but doesn't have all the money. So I want to appeal to those of you who have resources. The institute will only be a coordinating hub. That you already have resources, you're already doing your work. Let it be known. You will get a qualification if you are in academia, but let your research be known and inform practice. But we also want to make sure that the research you do is a research that can inform the country. Even when you are studying outside Uganda, we want to appeal to you to insist that you do research that is related to Uganda. And that's why we would want to stimulate that by also having some research grants, so that even when you are outside, you can actually come back to Uganda and you do research collaboratively, and some of the supervisors outside Uganda would want also to do research in countries like ours. So if you have any question, Gwendolyn has put there her number, but also there is the email of the Water Resources Institute. Just reach out to the Institute. Gwendolyn is the coordinator, but is supported by the team. So we have a team that is really focusing on research there. And we'll be happy to work with you. For those who qualify for these research grants that are upcoming and they are doing masters, or you know the people are doing it, or you know the supervisors, the lecturers, just reach out to them. But very soon we'll also be rolling out some other the research call for proposals. And we have also been approached by some other organizations which would want to work with us. So let's take advantage of this. And with this, I want to thank all of you for attending this meeting. I want to thank the team that has prepared for this meeting, that has been preparing for this Water Resources Institute team. And all of you are collaborators. Let's continue the collaboration. But just to inform you that the Institute is not only doing research, we have applied training. And Gwendolyn, maybe at some point you'll also, you and your team share the training schedule. We have monthly webinar series. Those of you who are not participating already, you join in. We have mentorship programs, again, for ladies and gentlemen. We are starting with those in the ministry, but we want also to open up for those outside the ministry. We have internship program where we are taking fresh graduates and send them to the different organizations, but very soon we'll also even be getting those who are in practice. And of course, we have the Uganda Water and Environment Week in March, and preparations are starting soon. And of course, we also have the dialogues, outreach, and also a program for people who have retired. So again, those who want to know more, reach out to the Institute. It's a no man's land. All of you will be welcome, and you can contribute to the development of this country. I want to bring this webinar to a close and wish you a nice weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, members.
Thank you too.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.